What's the story, guys? Welcome to another episode of the podcast. My name is Marcus Deegan, and today I'm sitting down with a Las Vegas resident that he amplifies himself into helping the community. Today we sit down with a man called the Problem Solver, aka David Kohlmeier. Where did the Problem Solver name come from?
I was going to say you sound so good. You're like the true king of podcasting. Where did the Problem Solver come from, the name itself? It's a good question. When I was a police officer in Henderson, one of the jokes was with other cops. It was kind of like they were making fun of me, is that when I would go to a scene where someone called 911 and I was spending a little bit more time with them, sometimes, let's say, a supervisor would show up and say, hey, what's going on? Is there a crime? Is someone getting arrested? And they said, no. Kohlmeier basically is trying to solve everyone's problem. So it was kind of a joke that they were making fun of me that I'm spending too much time on what we call a call for service. But basically, my roots from being a New York City police officer is that to solve the problem will basically prevent future calls for service, future people from calling 911, future crime from taking place. So by spending a few extra minutes, the goal is basically to solve the problem and not to come back there again so you can go get your donut and your cup of coffee.
How do you separate emotion when you're solving someone's problem, or is you having emotion add to the fact that you get to help these people?
That's a great question. A lot of times I do get emotional, in regards to the problem, because I'm thinking, how could you really solve the problem? I understand the person's situation, and I'm trying to give maybe 10 or different 15 kind of role playing, a little bit of the scenario, but giving them different strategies to basically help them with their problem. But to a lot of people, it could be feeling overwhelmed. Like, so if there's a problem, I would say, okay, send an email, send a text, send a letter, send a certified mail. Like, these are several things. A lot of people don't want to spend the energy to commit to really solving the problem. They want the problem to go away, but they have to take some action to basically get rid of a problem. Specifically, I deal with a lot of car accident cases or personal injury cases where people are getting injured and they're trying to call different attorneys, and a lot of attorneys don't want to accept the case for specific reasons. You have to take the time to maybe type up a Word document, explain the situation so that you could present it to different attorneys to see what attorney may want to take the case or which would be the best attorney, and let the attorney sell themselves of why they should be taking the case, because every case is not the same and every attorney is not the same. So I try to help, be more committed, be involved, sometimes get emotional into it, and try to help people take action and also lead them to the, how to solve it, or if they need an attorney, how to basically find that right attorney.
You're known for helping people out when they have car accidents or when they've had some kind of injury due to a vehicle collision. When that happens to someone and they are frantic and they are worried and they are scared, can you give us the main 3 steps or 4 steps that someone should do as soon as that accident happens? What does somebody do to come forth to get in contact with somebody like yourself who can pull that out of the drama?
Great question. So as a retired police officer, people call me because they know I'm not an attorney. They know that I was on the street, that I was a patrol officer. I did community policing. So when something happens on the street, it's very easy for a lawyer to say what to do, but they've never truly experienced what it's like to be on the street, right? A guy could be on drugs. He could be on alcohol. He could be crazy. People that are in the front seat or the passengers sometimes will switch the drivers because the person doesn't have a license, or they have a warrant, or they're not here legally and they're scared and they're afraid. Some people will just take off running because basically they think they have a warrant or they don't want to interact with the police. And then you're basically, sitting in your car and you see a car in front of you and you just got injured and the guy just takes off. How do you basically explain these unusual situations that happen in Las Vegas or happen anywhere? So the first thing basically really is to make sure that you and everybody in that car is okay, right? The first thing is the health and the well-being of yourself and other people in the car. The second thing is to address if anyone's hurt outside the car or inside another vehicle. How are they? Do we have to call the police? Do we have to call an ambulance? Do we have to render aid? Maybe someone's bleeding. Maybe we need to basically truly render aid if you know how to do that. Maybe there's people that are nearby that you can call for help, or say call the police. Normally, on the most part, making sure you're okay, making sure others are okay. The next is notifying the police, because we want an ambulance or a fire truck to show up, and you never know where that fire truck or ambulance may be. They may be around the corner. They may be in a parking lot. So rendering aid is important, and then getting checked out by a paramedic is very important, as I mentioned, about calling the police, and then having the police arrive, and then basically exchanging information, right? Getting the license, the registration, the insurance, getting all the facts and the information, so that when you want to make a claim for yourself or your vehicle, or if you're injured, you want to get the right information, right? A lot of people, they open up their glove box and they have the last 6 insurance cards, the last 4 registrations, right? Getting the right registration that's not expired, getting the right insurance that's not expired, right? because people change the insurance. If you have to make a claim for your car or for an injury, you want to make sure you get the right information, and you may never talk to that person ever again. So it's crucial to get the right information, the right paperwork. And these days, right, everyone's on their phone now, right? So you may have to take pictures of their registration insurance on their phone, and you want to make sure it matches up, because a lot of people will give the wrong information. It's the wrong car, it's the wrong insurance information. So again, checking that you're okay, checking that other people are okay, calling the police, getting an ambulance to come out, getting checked out, and then getting the exchange of information so you have the right information to make a claim, whether it's property damage or if there's any physical injury to you or to any parties in your vehicle.
Why should somebody go directly to you instead of just going straight to an attorney? What can you do for them that they can't do via going direct themselves?
So for the last 10 years, I've worked in different law firms, and I've seen different staff work in different law firms. I've seen different attorneys work in different firms, and a lot of people feel that every attorney is the same, which they're not. Every attorney is a little bit different, and I'll share an experience with you, is that certain cases that are called premise liability cases, where someone slip and fall or someone gets hurt at work, some people believe, oh, I'll call this billboard attorney, or I'll call this attorney that, he did my divorce. You want someone that's very specific, that has 5-star rating, that basically if you go to avo.com and you go to these different websites, that they're very highly rated. You want to basically look at all the reviews that they have to basically see that they're the best person. Did they win Best of Las Vegas? Did they not win Best of Las Vegas? What awards? What accolades, right? It's the totality of it all. But when you get involved in an accident or you basically get injured, who has time to really review all that stuff? How do you really know who the best attorney is? So that's where they would call me. And since I have a network of different attorneys that I work with that help people, I'm going to guide them. Say, you know what? Why don't you try this attorney, that attorney, and give them 3-4 attorneys where they can interview to make sure it's the right fit. You may not like this person. Maybe there's a language barrier. Maybe you need someone to speak a different language. Maybe some people that are Filipino, they want a Filipino attorney. Maybe you want a different attorney that speaks Creole or French or different, So depending upon what their request is, I'll give several options of them as a network of attorneys that I think that are good by looking at all their ratings and all their reviews and reading it all and talking to people in the community that have had success. You want an attorney that's local, that's living here, that's not in, New York or not in a different state. You want a local attorney handling your local problems, and you want to see that local attorney in that office. You don't want to just deal with a phone. You don't want to deal with Zoom. You want to see that attorney in that office so you could basically, discuss your problems, explain your situation, and get the help you need.
Why do you think Las Vegas is so popular for accident attorneys? Why do you see so many billboards around the town? And do the ones that display themselves on these billboards, are they as 5-star, or is it more of a commercial thing?
So I think Vegas is just really a big circle. Like, where we are right now in the studio, we're close to the airport. We could pretty much get anywhere within a good 30 minutes. So what's different about Vegas, it is a very large circle. So like when you're in New York City or New York State, it's such a massive, massive place. So when we drive around, it's very easy to see all these billboards, right? And there's probably right now, there's a good 30 billboards that are out there of different attorneys, but you don't know who they are. There's no relationship that you have with them. And not every attorney, even though they're on a billboard, will accept those cases. A perfect example, I mentioned these premise liability cases. I had someone the other day that called me, and he got hit while at work by a private contractor. And a lot of attorneys don't want these cases because it's not an easy case. And sometimes a lot of attorneys want these easier cases because it costs money and time. And what we call contingency means that lawyers will work on a case and get paid at the end. So the truth is most lawyers can't afford to work on a case where it's going to go on for 2, 3, or 5 years. So they want cases that are a little bit easier. Some attorneys that I work with in the network are really good attorneys. They'll handle all these types of cases, but some don't. And what happens is, what I've noticed is, and this is over 10 years, when you call an attorney and you explain your case, they may say, if they don't want the case, they're not going to say, look, I don't do this particular case. They'll say, at this point in time, we're not accepting this specific case, or we can't accept your case, but you can, contact another attorney. Most people get upset about that situation. They think that the case is no good, and they don't want to waste their time by calling another attorney, speaking to a case manager, waiting for the lawyer to call back or not calling you back, and then them turning you down again. So there's a lot of frustration. People are injured. People are upset. They're distressed. Their car is totaled. They only have one car in the family. There's a lot of stress and pressure when someone gets involved in an accident or injured. And finding the right attorney is crucial. But a lot of times it takes it's a kind of like a part-time job to find the perfect attorney that will handle your case. And like I always say, every attorney is different, every case is different, and finding the right attorney is so important to basically get you justice.
Do you have a specific amount of attorneys that you know personally or that have done work before that you have helped them out with clients that you use for specific cases? For instance, if there's an accident in a car, you go to this guy. If this guy fell over in the grocery store, you go to this guy. If there's a problem with the school, you go to this guy. And do you have the specific 5-star attorneys that are reputable for these separate different cases?
Absolutely. And one of the biggest concerns, me being a retired police officer, for the first several years, I worked in law firms that did criminal defense. And one of the most important things is sealing your record. In the state of California, it's called a record expungement. In this state, it's called a record seal. Now, a lot of attorneys don't like doing record seals. It takes time, paperwork, and it's just a kind of a pain. But the truth is, it is so important to people to seal their record if you've been arrested. Now, recently in the state of California, when you apply for a job or you apply for housing, the laws are changing where they can't use it against you. For all these years I've been in Vegas as a police officer, I would always say that protected class is race and religion, but criminal profiling or your criminal record is not protected. But recently in some other states, they are protecting it. And I've used to always feel bad for that because just because someone was arrested 20 years ago, 10 years ago, and if they have a child and you want that child to be in a good school, a lot of times certain apartment complexes or condos will not allow you to live if you have a criminal record. So I used to always talk about sealing your record because so when you seal the record means that you can legally state you've never been arrested before, which means when you apply for a housing or an apartment, you can say you've never been arrested before because there's always that question. Have you been arrested for a felony? Have you been arrested for a misdemeanor? Have you been arrested? So the record seal is extremely important. A lot of attorneys don't do record seals. Sometimes there's licensed document preparers that do it. Do you have a lawyer that does it? Do you have a document preparer do it? So again, I do have a network of different people. I normally like to recommend 2 or 3 people to see who they like in general. It's not just one specific attorney. It's several attorneys that I'll give them names. I'll say check on pricing. If it's a record seal, some could charge $500, some could charge $1,500, some could charge $2,500. You may see value if it's more of an experienced attorney that's been around the block. Sad to say, a lot of times paralegals are the ones working on it and then being reviewed by the actual attorney himself or herself. So again, getting the right attorney is important. Getting the timeline is very important on the retainer agreement, that if I'm doing a record sale, how long is it going to take? Record sale could take maybe 30 days if the lawyer's on top of it. So we want to make sure that you have the timeline and communications open with the attorney, so there's that expectation of when things are going to do and what's going to be done to basically help you, for your future.
So being a police officer is a very selfless profession. Obviously, you have to care about people and the community to be a police officer. How has being a cop in different states in the United States helped you and given you more knowledge on being the problem solver?
I think growing up in the East Coast in New York and experiencing what I would call foot patrol, which is really walking a beat, it kind of puts hair in your chest. I was 22 when I started in New York City, and walking a foot beat, talking to people, trying to solve their problems, arresting people when the time came, it was very, very crucial because you learn how to deal with people. When I came out here, 2,500 miles from home, coming to Henderson in Las Vegas, it's different in general. It was easier to talk with people out here because it's just different. It's not like a big city, but going through 2 police academies and working in the streets of both areas, I've gotten to realize that, talking to people and trying to be sincere and trying to solve their problem is actually the biggest important thing. Arresting people is just that extra thing that you do when a crime is committed. But if you don't know how to talk to people, you don't know how to solve their problem, then you wind up keep going back out to the same home over and over again. So the goal is always to resolve the problem. If the crime was being committed, of course, you're taking someone to custody or writing a citation. But communication is key. Solving problems is actually almost the biggest thing that you do as a police officer. You don't realize it because you're not always arresting somebody. You know what I'm saying? You go out where there's problems. People would call, I have a neighbor dispute, or there's a dog barking, or there's issues with my neighbor, or the person's crazy next door. What am I supposed to do? Or how do I do mediation? Where do I go for this? Or I want to prevent someone from breaking into my home. What kind of security laminate or alarm system do I need, right? So talking to people, solving problems has always been something I've done as a police officer, and I now do, without the badge and without the uniform. I continue to live the legacy of solving problems and helping people.
How can someone make sure they're going to be compensated correctly after getting in an accident? I mean, I'm sure there's a lot of attorneys out there that would undercut their clients. How do they know that they're getting the full representation and getting the full amount that they deserve?
So it's great. That's a great question, because the retainer, if you really read it, even though it's like legalese, I will share with you that there's different legal protection programs, as I mentioned before, something like Legal Shield, which is really good because they can review the different retainer agreements and see what should be added or taken out. By having another lawyer review a contract actually will help, but it can get expensive. So Legal Shield is something new that I've been implementing with the Problem Solver, because I want to help people review documents and contracts. Again, I'm not an attorney. I've never told anyone I'm an attorney. I don't accept any money for legal services. I don't do any legal services. I'm basically a network of attorneys helping people, referring people to the right direction, whether it's mediations free or Legal Shield, which is a protection plan, which is a membership that gets you attorneys in about 40 states. There's different attorneys in every state that gives you coverage to help you, whether it's a family problem or a traffic ticket and so on. So most people just don't know about the resources that are available. So whether it's Legal Shield or a network of attorneys that are helping people, Legal Shield really is a network of attorneys in 40 different states. And every law firm basically does several different things, whether it's contract law, whether it's personal injury, whether it's
Immigration law,
criminal defense,
parental.
Yes, all these different things. So my main thing is just guiding people. Instead of people going to an actual website where they're like just looking up some stuff, you're getting a real person like myself or other operators of the Problem Solver, which are several other retired police officers that I work with. If someone wanted a CCW permit or a gun, or they wanted to learn how to shoot, I have what I call other problem solvers that will basically help solve that problem. That person may be licensed for private investigations, or may be licensed to do a CCW class, which a lot of our retired police officers that I work with in Henderson or in Las Vegas Metro. So I'm always referring people to the right place and getting them the right attention they need. But when they want to make sure that they're getting justice from the attorneys that they are, I can always have them have a second opinion or another lawyer review their contract or their retainer to make sure they're on the right path for success and justice.
Legal Shield seems like a pretty amazing concept. I suppose in this day and age when people are basically Googling something or going on ChatGPT to find something out, paying whatever it costs for your AI memberships, you can pay a small fee to Legal Shield, and that gives you the open awareness to be able to have any kind of legal document reviewed by an attorney, so you can sign it and get your whatever it is case in process. Explain a little bit more about Legal Shield and how people can get involved with that.
It's really simple. It's really a legal membership. A lot of people think there's, different things around it that may sound weird. Locally in this state, in this city, it's for a single person or even a family, it's literally $29.95 for a membership, which is like $1 a day, right? Even their membership at $37.95 a month is like $1.25 a day. It's a joke. I mean, it almost seems too good to be true. But basically, when you get the membership, there's certain benefits that you get, and the local law firm in town for Legal Shield is Dempsey, Robert, and Smith, which is the main firm for Legal Shield members. There's about 18,000 members in the state, where I believe there's over 1 million people that are part of Legal Shield in the state of California. So it's not really heavily used in this particular state. We are trying to get awareness to people in the community of how they can use it. And what's great about it is, again, sounds too good to be true, it's a monthly membership. If you literally want to cancel next month, you send an email, please cancel my services. Like, what are you canceling? $1 a day. Like, we spend more money on coffee than legal protection for our own selves and our families.
People are going to say, how often am I going to need legal advice? How often am I going to need a legal document? Why am I paying $29 a month when I may only use this once a year? How do you counteract that?
It's interesting. The first story I say is that when I needed an attorney for something, I forgot exactly what it was, I contacted one of the other networks that were out there. They referred me to an attorney. The consultation was $175, and I paid $175. I went there. I showed up. I met with the lawyer. I explained my situation. They said, you know what? We don't really practice that law. I'm sorry, I can't help you, and then I'll refer you back to the same, network.
So you lost out on your $175.
I said, well, do I get my money back because you don't really specialize? They said, well, just like when you go to a doctor, it costs time for me to be here. I'm like, well, if I knew that you didn't practice this particular law, why would I come to you? Why would I spend $175? It wasn't even like a credit back or, something like that. So I always felt a negative taste of something like that, because to me, I feel like I was taken advantage of, right?
It's
Like,
kind of like an application fee when you're looking for a home. They charge you 50 to 100 bucks,
exactly.
and you may not even get that home, right?
And people make money from just applications.
Right.
Which
That
is
should be illegal in my
Which
eyes.
it is illegal. But
It is
there are-
illegal.
It is illegal if they're just doing that to defraud you. Like if they're just accepting hundreds and hundreds of applications.
Knowing that you're not going to qualify for the home.
Exactly.
Right.
So I just feel like it's kind of a little bit messed up when the lawyer charges you money and it's not something that you can basically even help me with, or give a credit back, right? Or give the money to another attorney. That
Well,
can
it's
help
kind
you.
of similar in the
Like a
medical
credit.
field. You go to the doctor, they take your 85 bucks. We have to refer you to this doctor. Then you go to the next specialist that says, okay, we'll do this blood test, but we got to refer you to this one. So you're constantly paying different fees from each different doctor. I get it.
But at least the copay sometimes is like $5 or $15,
Right.
not $175.
Yeah.
So in regards to Legal Shield, you could pay $29.95 a month, right? If you went the first month, it's just $30.
Yeah.
Right. And then if it's not working out, you don't like Legal Shield, you could cancel it. So to me, it's something that I've implemented now through the Problem Solver, or what I call the network, is introducing Legal Shield to people that need the help on a lower
Right.
level, not for accident or for injury, but specifically more that they want a contract reviewed, or if there's a cop at their door, or they basically need some advice, but they need an attorney 24/7.
Yep.
And they actually get this card that says Legal Shield on it, where it's a 24-hour access, and it actually is a card that you could provide to law enforcement saying that I do have representation. In 17 years of a police officer, I never had someone provide that Legal Shield card to me. But if they did provide the card to me, I pretty much would stop talking to them, because I know that they're under legal counsel, and I know that I pretty much wouldn't speak with them because they do have the right to an attorney. By providing that card is basically a way of communicating that they have an attorney and they don't want to speak with me.
So let's use me as an example. So my 10-year green card is up for renewal soon. I have some back taxes that I need to tie up, and I want to go for my American citizenship. I pay my $29 a month, and then what do? I call Legal Shield and say, this is my issue, and then bang, they put me in touch with those right attorneys.
They have several attorneys that are in their actual law firm. If they, for some reason, can't help, they can refer you to someone else. But on the most part, immigration is federal, so it could be any law firm in the United States. So I'm assuming they have someone specific for immigration. But if there's a cop at your door, or basically the police officer there, you can put Legal Shield on speaker. The lawyer would be there, and just basically they would talk. The attorney and the police officer could speak. But you have the unlimited usage of basically calling and getting access to an attorney to get advice or to where you should go, and you're not being charged extra money for just a simple consultation.
It sounds like they might be taking a little bit of business away from you there, Mr. Problem Solver. If they're pretty much kind of doing a similar sort of thing to what you're doing, right?
Well, I think it's different because that's one law firm. I mean, you may not want that law firm maybe if you killed somebody, right? You know, maybe that's not the top law firm for criminal defense, but for a DUI or domestic battery, right? Like there's certain lawyers for certain things. But I think for the initial help, for initial consultations, to get some more guidance, there are some things that they're going to charge money for. Like if you do a record seal or a record expungement, they will charge extra money for that. That's not included. So there are some simple benefits, but if you want to do something more, like you're going to go to trial, it's not covering you for a full-fledged trial.
Right.
Or a full-fledged DUI domestic battery case. But reviewing documents or getting some phone calls answered, or what your rights are, or if you lose your job right now, what do you need? Is it an unemployment attorney? Do you have to go for unemployment? So I think it's a good step in the right direction. I don't think specifically they're always solving different problems. They don't do mediation for free. There's the Neighborhood Justice Center that does mediation for free, which most people don't know about. It's free from Clark County. That may be a resource that I would advise you if you had a problem with a friend or about money or something like that. Then the small claims court. So yeah, I mean, they're definitely helping me with a small level of issues, like with small claims court. Again, I don't practice law. I'm going to guide people to get the right attorney or to find the legal membership to basically helping them. So it's a little bit different. For accident injury, I think finding the right attorney, because it's contingent upon them winning, you want someone that's a good attorney. You want someone that's going to be communicative to you, to call you back, and to have the right staff and to be at the right place. This one specific law firm that's in town can represent you with several things, but maybe it's not the perfect attorney for a larger case.
What would you say personally for you is the long-term goal of the problem solver?
You know, one of the goals is, which I would love to have, is like, you know, we were talking about these billboards. You know, I have the number 999-1111, which is like the police is 911 and the problem solver is 999-1111. It's kind of like a hotline number. My goal really is to make the hotline number where people will call with all kinds of different problems, and myself and other retired police officers will try to help people with their problems or refer them to the right source. So it's more of a hotline number. Tell people right now, a lot of people do know about the problem solver. I get different referrals for all kinds of things, whether it's problems with a lot of things that are more like victim advocate, like a public advocate, where right now there's something going on with Zillow, which is when people are looking for real estate, people are being taken advantage of by being charged certain fees because Zillow basically charges a certain fee to the realtors, and there, to me, it's a little, it's not transparent. Zillow has like a loan program, not transparent, right? Right now we have Uber and Lyft where there's a lot of people getting sexually assaulted and being touched or grabbed, and then Uber and Lyft needs to basically step up their game in regards to protecting people, especially women inside Uber and Lyft. So I'm becoming more of a victim and public advocate and bringing up these different issues and advocating for people when they don't want to bring it up and bring them on the Problem Solver podcast and talk about their experience and try to prevent things in the future. So there's a lot of things that are going on, even with medicine these days, right? People are taking these different shots for losing weight. What are the side effects in the future? There's a lot of mass tort cases and mass tort lawsuits that are taking place. So being a victim advocate, being a public advocate for everyone in Clark County is something that I really enjoy. And then sharing resources is a big deal when people just don't know where to go.
Well, there you have it. If you don't know where to go and you need a problem solved, forget about the stress, forget about the fuss, get a hold of the problem solver. That is David Kohlmeier, the problem solver, 702-999-1111. Take away the stress. You don't have to worry about it yourself. This man takes on the stress, he takes on the hassle and makes it easier for you. If you have any kind of problems for car accidents, to victim compensation, or if you've had a problem in a Lyft or an Uber drive, get a hold of David. That's David Kohlmeier, the problem solver. David, thanks for joining us today.
Thank you so much. Appreciate all the great questions.